Hello everyone, this is Shannon from That's So Po, and today I'm here with day 3 of the Kwanzaa Reflect-A-thon. If you're not familiar with the Kwanzaa Reflect-A-thon, I have information linked below. It is run by Njeri from ONYX Pages, and it's a chance to reflect about the reading that you've done this year using the Kwanzaa principles. So today is day 3, which is the principle of Ujima, or collective work and responsibility. The prompt for today is to talk about a book that had a diverse group of characters that worked together towards a common goal. So first is The Haunting of Tramcar 15 by P. Djeli Clark. This is an alternate history steampunk set in Cairo in the 1920s, where in this history jinn and magical beings have entered the world, and it's a very interesting world with lots of different characters, and Cairo is very metropolitan and has people from all over the world who are there. The main characters are some detectives who are trying to understand a tramcar which has been haunted, and in this process they end up working with a lot of other people around town, including some really strong feminists. And I think that that's part of the storyline, where they interacted with all of these other people in trying to solve their mission, and became sort of more exposed to what was going on, and especially the suffragette movement was really fascinating, and I loved that in this book. Next is Babel 17 by Samuel R. Delany. This is a science fiction from, I believe, the 1960s, and in it there are spaceships and space crews that are very much like sailors. The main character is actually kind of like a poet and a code cracker, and she needs to gather together a crew very quickly in order to go and track down some interesting things in space to crack a code she's working on. The crew that she gathers together is really fascinating, and they are all different types of people, and especially in this world there really are all different types of people. There's people with a lot of different genetic modifications. There is a group, a threesome, that is in a relationship as 3 people, and one of them is a new member who is also from a different country, and they don't necessarily speak the same language, so that's really interesting. There are also discorporate people, so people who no longer have bodies, just kind of their minds. And this idea of people with all sorts of different bodies, all sorts of different languages, all sorts of different backgrounds, all sorts of different socioeconomic classes. It's a whole group of people, and they're all working together to uncover this mystery and find out what kind of secret code is going on and how that's affecting things. So I loved that group dynamic in this book. And lastly is The Sorcerer of the Wild Deeps by Kai Ashanti Wilson. This is a really beautifully written, very poetic in a lot of the language, sort of fantasy world that imagines kind of a magical world that is a little bit like the medieval caravans that would go across the desert. And in this, the main character is a mercenary, and he is with a group of other mercenaries, and each of these people comes from a different background. This book, I think, did such a great job too of all sorts of different dialects and patois and all sorts of different people and perspectives coming together to be so part of this brotherhood of mercenaries. And that was a huge part of the book, this idea of a group of brothers who are working to protect this caravan, who each have their own backgrounds. Some of them are young kids, some of them are old, some of them are a little bit more difficult than others, and it's just that interesting dynamic and group of people working together that I thought was such a cool part of the book. If you've read any of the books that I mentioned, please let me know what you thought of them in the comments below, or if you have any books that you've read this year that you think really had a spirit of working together for a lot of different diverse characters, I'd love to hear about it. I will check in with you on day 4 of the Kwanzaa Reflect-A-thon.